totally free, and enjoy more of what the world has to offer in this action one, because this is where most human beings screw the pooch. So a little one-person trampoline, very, I screen shared it. Like, there's no excuse. Like, phone numbers are just out there. You just got to pick up the phone, smile, and dial. So. Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of the Talk to Tanner Morning Show, where we go over tips, tricks, ideas, and exercises to help make you the absolute best entrepreneur you can be, not only for yourself, but for the people you love and care about most. This morning, we have an awesome interview with a good friend of mine, colleague, business partner, Dr. Virgilio Castillo. This man's been really interesting in the variety of things that he's been able to take on in both the sports world, working with like these tennis icons, to starting his own practice in the chiropractic world, now continuing to expand his business, working with people with sports rehabilitation, and kind of just helping this. I love when he's asking for referrals for his business, looking out for those dad noises when you're like, starting to feel a little creaky, then you go to Dr. C, hopefully get fixed up and feeling better right away. I wanted to bring him on here. He's a great personality, a great entrepreneur, and I think we can learn a lot about the mental aspect of sports and coaching and owning a business and how that can be applied to yourself in today's world to make you the best version of you. So without further ado, Dr. C, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tanner. Thanks for having me.
This is actually round two of, we actually had a chance to chat. Man, was that 2 years ago, a year ago, or somewhere in between the two?
Like I want to say about 2 years ago, when we first got together. Yeah, that was a good conversation that you had to cut off too soon because we just had such a good time.
This is one of the funny things about doing these things and connecting with people. It's one of the nice things that kind of takes you out of the time, like worrying about what time it is, what day of the week it is, and just kind of being focused on what it is you're trying to do and create and talk about, which is no wonder why so many people are trying to do it for like marketing purposes nowadays, because it's really fun.
Yeah, it definitely is a great conversation to have. And I actually was looking forward to this. So happy to be here.
Well, with kind of these bigger lessons, and I wanted today to kind of focus more on like we have so many metaphors and so many learning lessons from sports. There's something about sports metaphors that just like tend to land for people when you're trying to give them a real life example. So I wanted to kind of get right into it today, if that's all right with you. Tell us a little bit about your athletic days. What had you moving and grooving back in the day, and kind of what you were doing.
Absolutely. So growing up, I've always been around in athletics. It was back in the day when you'd be able to get out of the house, run around with a group of kids, kick the ball, play wiffle ball, baseball, softball. Chicago softball was like no mitts. It was just a soft 16-inch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then going out and just playing hoops and just being a very active kid. And then it was actually an unfortunate incident where I was riding, I borrowed a friend's bicycle in her block, and when I was turning around to go back to the house, somebody came up to me and robbed her bike off of me. So they just pretty much, hey, get off the bike, I'm going to take the bike. And so they took the bike.
Yeah.
So that led to a good disciplining, let's just say that, for my father. But then immediately after that went right into martial arts, right? So then now I have got into Taekwondo specifically, and went from, I want to say that was maybe about when I was 10, 11 years old when that happened, up until about when I was 18. That's when I stopped. But also then we were playing a lot of tennis as a kid. My father signed us up. We started playing tournaments at a very young age. So I was doing a lot of martial arts, tennis, things like that. And so that's how I got into a lot of the athleticism, the activities and stuff like that. And so then that just carried over to um, into high school playing tennis primarily because I stopped at around 18 with martial arts, but then continued playing tennis. And tennis, as you know, is an individual sport. So a
Yeah.
lot of the things that as a tennis athlete is, for one, self-discipline, self-reliance, problem solving, um, as well as being athletic and all those types of things. And so then that just kind of translated more into, like I said, high school and into college. Played for a very small stint in university. Um, Played in a smaller junior college. Then after that, just played some rec leagues, United States Tennis Association or USTA leagues throughout that, and then then moved on to chiropractic school from there.
With so kind of and a long chain, it's pretty much been in your life since like a very young age and kind of moving on it. And you touched on some of the things of like problem solving. What are your some of your favorite things just about sports in general, like from a like a performing standpoint and being able to do them and interact with them?
Well, one of the things that I grown to appreciate is, especially with nowadays, the sports science of it all
Damn, yeah, for
is
sure.
becoming more and more right prevalent. And back in the day, now I may not look it, but I grew up in the 70s and 80s, so a lot of what, if it wasn't for martial arts, the coordination, the strength, the training from there would have been more challenging just playing tennis. Nowadays, you have tennis players training what I used to do back in the day in martial arts, with jumping and even some weight training, things like that. So what I've kind of learned from it is, just as far as a performance standpoint, kind of like what you were saying, is just how I've been able to learn how to use my body, um, and coordinate my body, where some folks from my age to younger kids have a difficult time um, trying to disassociate the lower body from their upper body, such as a throw. Baseball pitchers, for example, especially in little leagues, to maybe even some adults that really haven't learned how to coordinate their body or learn how to use their body.
Yeah,
That has been one of the biggest things, especially as we start to get older. We have to, use our body different ways. So
yeah.
that was probably one of the big things that I've kind of come away with.
With I mean, you're probably just in shock and awe and almost laughter seeing from when you were a kid the practices that they would do to get strong, get ready for competition, to compared to like the supplementation, the facilities, the equipment, the science behind it. It's probably night and day, and kind of I'd imagine for the better, right? Continue to see these. I'm seeing 9-year olds who would probably smoke seniors in high school like a couple of decades ago, kind of at whatever it is, which is I think really cool. The so you're on your journey, you're transitioning to being more so a teacher with your chiropractic practice, and also when we got had the pleasure of working together, you were still coaching tennis. So I mean, could you mind share on us a little bit how how you've been able to handle the transition from being the athlete into the sport to working with the athletes who are in the sport? I feel like this is a tough transition for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I think um, you really have to love what it is that you do. Luckily for me, I found a profession and a passion for sports related or just sports in general, right? From NASCAR that's kind of come to Chicago all the way up to like cricket. It's a very you just got to love sports. And again, with chiropractic, I've been able to, you know, marry the two from medicine, sports medicine, holistic medicine to sports and athleticism. So that's a really nice plus with, um, you know, uh, chiropractic as a general, profession. Now, for me, I have a passion for tennis. Now, it wasn't always the case as I was growing up, but now I've become to appreciate and really enjoy and then still learn the game of tennis. And I think that's the biggest thing too, is that regardless of what sport or what activity it is that you're really passionate about, is just being a student of that sport. And for me, tennis is that. So the transition wasn't that challenging for me, right? Because I always knew that I wanted to be some sort of sports um, physician or sports, I guess, health professional, right? So with playing tennis and still staying around the game and actually still coaching it to this day, the transition hasn't been that challenging for me. I think what's challenging, and we'll get to that a little bit later, is, just, okay, where's my focus going to be today? Right. But as you can kind of see, it's kind of hard to see. I'm in a baseball training facility, so I see a lot of overhead athletes, and tennis is an um, overhead, reaching over type of sport. So that kind of puts me in a unique situation where, I can see a lot of either baseball players, softball players, lacrosse players, tennis players, as I mentioned, um, things like that. So it's been um it's been a fun ride so far. Now you kind of touched a little bit on, what nowadays what kids have from like that 9-year-old to the
Yeah,
senior,
crazy.
right? It's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah, like yeah, it is funny because the places that you see now, like this, like I mentioned, I'm in the
yeah. You're
uh,
in a not
baseball training
facility.
facility. Exactly. We didn't have that back in the day. We had what our facility was a park,
Right.
right? You had the gym or the monkey bars, the slides, the swings. Nowadays, you have here you got TRX trainers, you've
Right.
got the rings here. You've got back in the day a pitching a batting cage, you'd have to pay. Now batting cages are in almost every training facility, right?
Mhm.
I think right now in my radius there's like 3 baseball training facilities within a mile of each other. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Now the danger that I find though, and that's kind of like the topic, a hot topic in the sports medicine realm, is specializing too early.
Mm.
That 9-year-old that just wants to play baseball, that's it. Or, and this is more common, is that parent that wants their
Yeah.
9-year-old to
Exactly.
play baseball
Yeah.
only,
Yeah.
right? So that's the danger. And I think there's a term that's being used out there as long-term athletic development, and or LTAD, and that's kind of like the realm that I grew up in. I played multiple sports, um, multiple disciplines, using my left and my right side, which became more athletic. Nowadays, you see a lot of young kids with either a Tommy John surgery at a very young age, at like say 16, 17 years old,
Right.
having an elbow surgery. That's crazy,
Mhm.
or low back pain because, they're just playing football so much. Like I had actually, he was a junior who had low back pain, but then again, he was a stud of a linebacker. So
Oh my
uh,
gosh. Train
y-
wreck after train wreck. Yeah.
absolutely. So, and he played football, I think, in Pee Wees, and so it does get a little. I don't want to say diluted. It's not diluted. It's sometimes that you just put those children in a pigeonhole, and that's all they can do.
That I'm glad you brought that up because it really got to the core of what I was asking you. So you transition from an athlete into a coach, and I've seen it too many times, unfortunately, where coaches and parents can start to live through their athletes and like for getting them to push so hard to the point that they are having like Tommy John surgery and they're with an age of a teen, like still attached to their name. So I mean, being careful of that. What advice would you have for parents then, you think, as they're like, man, I got this gut feeling if little Timmy plays baseball for 30 straight years, he's going to be pretty damn good versus like letting them kind of develop or kind of mix. What's your opinion on this whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, being a tennis coach, I'm surrounded by a very good number of athletic young children who play tennis like they're mini pros, right?
I'm sure.
Um, as a matter of fact, as I say that, I'm thinking of this particular 9-year-old who actually practices with like 15 and 16-year-olds,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
this kid, he could really play. However, his parents are doing it right in that he plays other sports. He does martial arts. He does play soccer. So he's getting a well-rounded athletic base, if you will, right? He's learning how to use his body in different planes of motion, in different ranges of motion, if you will. He's learning how to use his left. Now he's right-handed dominant, so he uses his left side too in other sports, in martial arts, and
Yeah.
um, learning to use his lower body independent of his upper body from soccer. So my advice is to, yeah, don't um, try to pigeonhole your child in a particular sport. If they really gravitate toward a sport, that's usually at around the age 14, 15, right? But giving them the exposure of multiple sports to learn different aspects, not only of their body, but their brain as well, because young children's brains are very placid. They're like literally sponges, and they're learning how to use their brain and coordinate their body based on those pathways that they develop as a young, exposed to different sports and stimulus, right? So not just video games and such. So having them experience those different um, disciplines is only going to help the child, not so much hurt the child. Now, you still have a base of, let's just say, baseball, for example. Yeah, they could definitely play little league, they could play travel league, um, but at the same token, don't discount, because as we go into a little bit further conversation of, the question becomes, are you overstressed or under recovered, right? So
Mm.
overstressed or under recovered, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. And when you stress the system way too much, then yeah, that's when you're going to start developing issues, right? Like an elbow problem or something like that.
Yeah, this it kind of leads me right into this point about finding the balance. I think it is starting to show that like rest is really necessary and that not going completely full bore on say a certain sport or a particular workout or style I think can help prevent with injuries. When I'm talking to so I talk to a lot of people and we do a ton of goal setting and this and that, and usually the number one goal reigns supreme. It's something tied to health, and I think it's so common to have a fear of getting injured. Like people just like they're like, I'm an adult now. I cannot get injured. I have too much going on to deal with that. What are some things that you would say for people to like look out for to avoid some of the most common injuries? I know I was reading some of your common injuries on your website earlier today. some advice you'd have for folks?
Absolutely. What's so funny is that in the intro when you said about the dad noise, how
Yeah.
how how definitely prevalent that. I mean, like you hear that all the time. And even moms give the dad noises too when they stand
Yeah.
up from a seat. So um usually the biggest thing that I would give is, and for those that are familiar with the sports and rehab, there's a quote, especially something from a company called Functional Movement Systems, is where they say, "Move, move often. Period. Move well. Right? Move well. Move often." And to me, as we get older, as because you looking really good right now, Tanner, and I'm sure you're going to get older from here
Yeah.
and still look good,
So,
right? You want to keep moving. Um, and the best way to do that is to keep moving, which is very cliche. But
right.
if you're moving properly, yeah, and not avoiding certain movements because of pain, that's an issue, right? So
Mhm.
just making sure that you're moving the most efficient way that your body is allowing you to do. So for example, the ankle is probably one of the biggest things that loses motion or decreases motion as we get older, right? So um, if your ankle's not moving well, then something up the chain, up your body needs to
Right.
move more often, which then becomes the knee. And why do we have so many knee replacements, knee problems, and creaking knees, cracking knees? Is it could be either a poorly moving ankle or the upper this upstream, like the hip. The hip might be really, really tight. Um, so which brings me also to, everybody does a lot of activities and we need to have some self-love. So getting a massage is not a bad thing, right? It's not only in a spa or so, just people think, oh, I don't like people touching me. That's fine. Get a foam roller, right? Nowadays you can find a massage gun for like at a discount store,
Yeah, for real.
so getting that done, getting some soft tissue work is very important, especially in those very active muscular areas like the hip or like the shoulder, like the neck. So that brings me to like, neck issues. Some people go, oh, my neck, I'm having headaches or whatever. It just could be tension, stress, right? Some tightness in there. So, um, getting your child to like, hey, let's get some hand strength going on this neck here. Work on that neck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right, not just sit on your phone or your video games. Here, you want to work on your thumbs and fingers, you work on this neck right here. So I mean, getting some work done on there, because that could just loosen up the tension and hopefully even help you with the headaches, right? But then once you've relaxed and you got those muscles moving, and now we want to get some flexibility, right? So that's where the stretches come in. And it doesn't have to be very elaborate stuff. You don't have to go join a gym and go to yoga classes, although it does help a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but just doing some basic stretches, starting off that, I would just kind of make sure that every joint in your body needs to move. And if you don't know how to do that, then find somebody in your area, you know, to help guide you. And that's the thing too, is that most people feel like they need to have somebody, like, you're a coach. So people do need coaches to help them through that, right? Especially the ones that are more knowledgeable. If they're not knowledgeable, then okay, you need to go on, move somebody and find somebody else. But just somebody to guide you through these exercises, drills, whatever you want to call it, to just help you move better and move often.
This I hear it all the time. The move it or lose it. And whenever, so I live in, me and my girlfriend were probably, it seems like we're by far the youngest people. A lot of the people are a lot older. And I see dozens and dozens of them who are probably in their 60s and 70s just walking every single day. And I'm like, keep going. And then you see some of them who are just stuck on the porch and they're not moving much at all. And I don't ever see them ever walking ever. And it does sound cliche, but continuing to move and then being smarter talking, you contact Dr. C, you go over to his website that will be in the link in the description if you got questions for him, or just trying to, YouTube University, right? The new age stuff of, it seems like we could get educated on pretty much any type of movement that we would desire. And that has me pretty excited. This you'd mentioned whether you do it at a gym, you get an instructor or coach, you do it at home. When it comes for you for working out, do you like working out in public places and with groups of people, or do you like working out at home and by yourself? What's kind of your jam? It seems like a lot of people are back and forth on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I find whatever is most comfortable for you, right? I know women sometimes they don't like going to the gym because it's just, too many people, too many eyes. And, some people get self-conscious. Men too, right? It's perfectly okay. So I just find whatever is comfortable. So I've actually worked in all different places. I end up finding working out at home probably be the most convenient for me,
Yeah.
right? So some people like the gym because, it depends on what how do they get motivated, right? So if they're paying for a membership,
Yeah.
they're gonna go, okay, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
But if they're self-disciplined to work out at home, they're gonna go, right? And you mentioned YouTube University. So we've got a mutual friend. I'm gonna plug her, M.E. Kennedy, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
M.E. Fitness. She's got her a YouTube uh jam, if you will, there. So um give a shout out to Emmy, and she does a great and fantastic job too. So wherever you feel comfortable, just get there, get out there. I actually have my own personal gym here at the house, and then also in my office. So that's another nice thing to have to be able to work in a facility like mine, is that I have all the bells and whistles and the newest toys to experiment with. So
This I can't help but over the last 3 or 4 months. So my girlfriend likes working out at home, and I am completely sold on the fact that I get a way better workout when I'm at a gym. For me, I think she likes the isolation and her being able to blare her favorite kind of music in her basement. We have the room for it at the house, so it works out. We bought some of those nice mats that you can put down on the ground so you can chuck weights on them, yada yada.
sure.
But the for me, even though we have that stuff here now, it's not even a question to me. I'd much rather go to a gym. There's something about, I feel like when I just get there, then I have no choice but to like, let's get this done versus at home. I'm like, our washer and our dryers are down there. It's like, oh, well, this laundry needs moved, or like the dog needs to go outside, or whatever it may be. I'm a bit of a squirrel and I get distracted very easily. So being at the gym has always been a preference of mine. But playing with both of them, right? I guess that's what we're talking about. Like you're saying, like you got to figure out what you get motivated by and what you're actually willing to do. Like you said, we just need you moving, and how you do that, and how you there. It seems like there's 1,000 ways to skin the cat. Are there some certain types of workouts and types of sports that you're recommending to people as they're getting older, things that they should try and do? Because
Abs-
what can we do to make it fun?
Absolutely. I think well, there's a few things, right? So if they have like uh an athletic history, so if they've played organized sports back in the day, um so they might, like you mentioned, is they might like to go to a gym, right? So I would just go to the gym, start working out there, get on the treadmill. If they like weights, work on weights. However, as you get older, those weights may not necessarily be the best thing for you. It could be, some resistance band work, things like that, because those are easier on the joints. Whereas when you're lifting heavy, because eventually they do get heavy now, um, the bands would probably be more um, easy on the body. Now, it depends also too. Can you kind of mention goals? What's your goal, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to get big and bulky as you get older, which um, could be goods and bads, yeah, heavy lifting, but definitely finding somebody like a trainer who knows what they're doing to kind of guide them again, right? Because what you used to do back in the day may not be the best exercise for you right now, especially if you've got some sort of joint problem, back problem, things like that. I even would just be cautious too, just make sure that uh, you know, we're not having high blood pressure, hypertension, things like that, because that could be going down a bad path also. So just make sure that they're healthy enough to do this stuff. So another one too is that if you've never had any organized sport growing up and now you want to get healthy as you get older as an adult, so learning your body again, kind of going back to that, because certain exercises require coordination. And what's nice about free weights is I kind of think of it as coordination training. So when they do, everybody knows how to do a bicep curl, right? However, if you're using and you get tired, you start to use your body and you start to wrench that curl up. Then we're
Mhm.
starting to use the other body parts except uh, for isolation. So you're not isolating the bicep, you're using your back to kind of help you lift. You're seeing the weight come up, but then you're wrenching your back at the same time. So I would at that point start thinking maybe starting off with maybe a Pilates class,
Mm.
right? So I've recommended that because coordinating their body, using their core is huge. I like Pilates if the instructor is well versed, because you get goods and bad coaches, doctors,
Right.
trainers, things like that. Um, know how to progress you or regress you. So if they see, oh, okay, you're struggling with this, let me pull this back a little bit, knowing when to do that. Oh, you're doing really well with this. Let's go ahead and progress you even further, right?
Mhm.
So they know the art of training. And Pilates is a nice, easy way of knowing how to use your core, how to get a neutral spine, using body parts that you probably have never used before. And then from there, we could go into more of, standing or, whatever other exercises that they want to get into. So really depends on what their history is, if they've got a good athletic base or if they're brand new to, working out. So knowing to see, and Pilates is just a starting, it's not like the place to start, but if that's where they need it, then I'd say, that might be, or yoga. Yoga is another one too, if they're very stiff.
Mhm.
Pilates kind of does the same thing, but yoga is a nice one. And then finding a sport that they like, right? Because like you mentioned with goals, is you're just not going to go out there and train. If there's something that you want to do, and I know your history there that you like to rock climb, right? So to me, there's a lot of benefit to yoga, right?
Yeah.
Because when you
Mm.
go for a grab, you have to be contorted in a position that your body's not used to.
Right.
Yoga does that without a wall, and you're not 100 feet up in the air,
Right.
right? So that would be, so it depends on what sport they are. So yoga, I would recommend yoga for you if, whoever's in that same sport or similar sport. Um, baseball, for example, would probably use something like, you know, arm action with foot action. So we get maybe a little bit of weight training, obviously, with that. Maybe even some combat sport could be something like um, um, karate or something like that, only because that it's using the left and the right side, and you're using overhead swings, you're using swings like that. So yeah, it really depends. Which then also kind of brings me to um, those brain pathways that I was mentioning to you, because like if you're using, just say, like again, baseball, if you're just used to one thing, your body doesn't know the other direction. So if you're used to this just horizontal plane, if you will, your
Mhm.
brain needs to use that vertical plane, or that angled plane, right? Get used to those types of movements. It only, again, helps you coordinate your body much better.
This I really like the point on understanding the mechanics of the goal that you would set for yourself. So if you're like my brother, he's getting really good at rock climbing, and his ability to move his body in a way, and he's always telling me like this, you gotta stretch, you gotta stretch, you gotta stretch, and like being able to have your body ready to be in those uncomfortable positions and vice versa. So maybe that's what we're talking about here, is just looking at what it is that you really want to do and looking at what this movement really entails, and then finding something that can support these movements and help you progress, or at least understand at a level like, where do I need to regress and where do I need to progress. And a lot of this seems so complicated and up to the individual, like say your hip's bad, my shoulder's bad, or whatever. Understanding like you are on your own like fitness journey, and kind of tailoring to what it is that you need and want to kind of support. So
Well, that's kind of like where I was mentioning about having a guide, right?
yeah.
So finding somebody, someplace that is more of a guide, as opposed to somebody that's like, okay, we're going to do this, and this, and this. I need to see you this, and this, and this many times. Well, if you got it, you're good. You get the general and information, and you work with it. But then you're like, wait, you know what? I found a stumbling block here. Can you help me with that? That's kind of like the guide, or I guess I like to use the term, you know, um, yeah, the coach, if you will, right? Because the coach is out there to kind of help you through it and help you guide you through it. But it's up to the individual, kind of like you were saying. It's like, okay, I need to go take this to the next level, like, and progress through it, based on the information that I'm given.
Mhm.
And then have a retest. So in my clinic, we do a test and retest, right? So we test you initially to see what your limitations are. And then we treat you, or as we go through the progression of exercises, treatments, whatever the case, and then we retest you. And if you're improving and you see the improvement and you feel the improvements, then okay, now you just need to, keep doing the things that you're doing, right? And I think that in of itself is what a good guide should be, right?
Yeah. This I'm kind of flipping the script from other people onto, I want to talk a little bit more you on some of your upcoming priorities. This it seems so important to be able to get those initial wins, like in the first couple months of say your journey and whatever. Like I just want to see some light come in through the window. Or, say if I've been in, my back's been hurt for years, then just getting some type of win to help improve, getting us going seems so valuable. I guess onto the topic of you, is there between health, wealth, and relationships, where are you trying to make some of the improvements over the next year? Any one of those three categories ring home to you?
I think the biggest right now is kind of like the health part of it, right? I'm
Mhm.
getting up there in age, and I do have a family history of health issues, I should say.
Mhm.
My father, he's passed on, and he passed at a very pretty early age of heart conditions, of a heart failure, right? So I've got that family history behind me, and I'm still trying to stay ahead of that, and that's probably one of the biggest things, right? Um, Now, I think as a chiropractor, we all think that, okay, you could take care of it. You know the education, you know the information. Here's what you need to do, and here you could do it holistically, right? Now, I'm more of a realist, and there are some times when you do need medicine. I'll be honest. It's just that's just the facts. And then, but with that information that you're given, when is a good time to start using that medication? So, um, I luckily for me, knock on wood, I'm not on any kind of heart medicine right now, but that's definitely I could see that coming. But if I can prolong it or at least do the right things, that for me is a good thing. Having checked by your medical doctor is a big thing. So I know I'm scheduled for one, but not being afraid of what's happening because, and I'm sure like you, if you know it's coming and you're aware of it and not be afraid of it, then just take it head on and just say, you know what, this is not going to put me down or prevent me from doing all those things. So that's kind of like where I'm at with health. Um, Relationship wise, um, it's it's been good. I mean, I'm not no complaints on my end. I'm reconnecting with some old friends, which is fantastic. Who come to find out with more, one-to-ones, I guess, if you will, how much they've grown and matured, and vice versa. They learn how, I've got to practice things like that. So those are great. And still building new relationships. I think that's the big key too, is that
Yeah.
not staying, still have your circle, but then also expanding that circle too. So that's been a great thing. And then wealth, when health and relationships kind of, are getting up there, I think wealth is just, just follows with you, right? So I'm not, when I first opened up practice, it was a big thing. It was like, okay, where's my next meal going to come from? But for the most part, when you get your health and your relationships right, wealth will follow. I
Beautiful.
don't, I feel like if, and over the years I've learned this, that when you start hunting for wealth, you're not going to find it. It's like that, that Bugs Bunny, where's that rabbit? And they can't find the rabbit. And
Yeah.
then when you least expect it, that's when it starts coming. So
Mhm.
I try not to think too much about that. But yet at the same token, I do have a family. I have, a wife and kids and a house and all that stuff. So still got to do what you have to do. But at the same token, don't let wealth rule your life. So
Yeah. No, beautiful said. This with kind of picking these apart a little bit, that it takes are you at peace with, so on the health side of things, just getting older, and I've had some clients and working with them and stuff very uncomfortable with just the thought of getting older. Everything is impermanent and we age, and kind of how have things been with you kind of handling that relationship with understanding that you do get older, and kind of how things are kind of changing and moving for you? Are you at peace, or what are
that's
some
a
ideas?
great question. Because for a while it probably once I hit the 30-year-old mark, that's when that reality started to hit, the longevity question,
Mhm.
right? And unfortunately in my life, I've had some people very, very close to me um, pass on. And so that's when it really hit home. And as you see your family members get older and the people that you grew up with start to kind of fade or transition over,
Yeah.
it definitely puts the reality in there. And coming to grips with that is probably one of the toughest things that you have to find for yourself, right? Because it really helps you explore who you are really.
Yeah.
When you start to think about those types of those tough questions that you ask yourself, right? Because if you don't come to terms with it, if you don't accept it, then there's always going to be this wall or this sheet, right? And you always have to kind of, make up that wall. You have to dress that wall. You have to, feed that wall every time. And that wall is that denial aspect of, this is who you are, right? Um, and some people, you'll find some of those people, right? You'll know those types of people.
Yeah.
Um, but then at the same token, kind of like we were talking about, move well, move often,
Yeah.
because when you are active, right? And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a marathon runner. You don't have to be, you know, um, a CrossFitter 24/7, right? You don't have to be all those things. If you like it, fantastic. God bless you. Keep going, right? Keep doing it the best you possibly can. But for those that are, the weekend warriors that just like to do it once, twice a week, fantastic. But making sure that you stay with it, because you will push father time further back,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so that's kind of like how I've been dealing with it. I know that a lot of folks that are my age now, um, I'm pushed the 50 mark, right?
Big 50.
Exactly. I've pushed that. I've actually crossed that over twice. So 2 years, right? So there are a lot of folks, like I said, that I'm like regaining some old relationships that can't move very well,
Yeah.
right? That make that dad noise when they stand up, and I hear it after lunch. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Um, and so I like to say that is kind of like the saving grace, and you'll see videos, you've seen them, social reels and things like that, where you've seen like these grandmothers that are uh, uh, pushing iron, right? They're doing curls, they're on the
Crush.
balance balls and all that kind of stuff. So it is out there and it's doable. And yeah, just keep going.
This it's so nice to hear that you're building a healthier relationship with it, and just understanding the science is here and it's understood that you really are getting more time if you put in the time to exercise and move your body, whether that's walking or jogging. Or, I hear one of my clients, his goal was just, he just wanted to play with his grandkids. He just wanted to be able to bend over. And he'd worked in a mill for like 30 years, and it beat the crap out of him. And then he had to like relearn how to, like, stretching wasn't a topic of conversation in the mill. It turns
Mhm.
out they weren't talking about stretching.
Really?
Yeah, go figure, right? And just kind of keeping that open mind, and and continue to build that relationship. So it's really nice to hear
I
the
wanted
relationship side. Go ahead, please.
No, it's okay. What I want to kind of add to it, and excuse me, I alluded to it a little bit earlier, is overstress versus um, forget the term now, overstressed or under recovered, right?
Mhm.
Now, as we were talking a lot about physicality, however, there's still part of that emotional part of it too, right? And I think that's part of the stressors, because stress encompasses a lot of things, whether it be physical, mental, um, and are we under recovered? So it doesn't necessarily just mean sleep,
Mhm.
right? Doesn't mean rest necessarily. But yes, sleep is a huge part of it. So if you're not sleeping well, okay, because sleep apnea is a big thing. You don't have to be overweight to have sleep apnea.
Yeah.
If you're not getting enough rest that you require yourself to, because everybody's different. I know I need about 8 hours of sleep or so, right? It doesn't look like I had 8 hours of sleep as I look at myself in the camera. Hopefully, you'll be able to touch this up. But, um, um, and then also too, relative rest is what we like to call. So, like I mentioned a little bit about the marathon runner. Sometimes, if you're a runner, you might want to do something different just to rest your lower half. Do something a little bit more with the upper half, such as like swimming, for example, right? That's a different form of rest relative to the running. right? Now, as far as stress could be a number of things. I mean, you've come across clients, I'm sure, that are under the gun or a deadline, or they have to do this and do that.
Yeah.
Well, that emotional stress needs to be handled or checked, right?
Yeah.
Because then now, how does that translate to your physical stress? So, do you hold your tension in your neck? Do you hold your tension in your back? Well, also too, like, what's your diet like? Because if, you know, the analogy I like to use is a computer, right? If you put bad information in a computer, if you put all this information in a computer, your computer starts to move slowly, right? It doesn't run as quickly enough, and you always have to clean it, and you have to clean it. Well, our body is very similar to that. If you're putting in crappy food that's not nourishing, then you're going to get, you know, the output that it's going to give you. It's going to be, you're going to be sluggish, or some people break out, have a sensitivity to certain things. They always seem to have drink coffee all the time, things
Yeah.
like that. So having a balancing act, and that kind of goes with the relationships and health, having that balance, that's the challenging part as we get, more into like the business life of things. Um, and that's always a continuation that never is going to stop. But recognizing where you're at, are you overstressed or under recovered?
Yeah, this listening to your body, and there's this gosh, what is his name? I think it's Brian Johnson, or he's the billionaire who's putting all that money towards like making himself age as slowly as possible. Have you heard about this guy at
Mm,
all? He
mm,
my sister was telling me about him. Now I have to look him up. I think it's no, it's not Brian Johnson. I'm gonna set a link to that dude's channel, and he's like aging slower than an 11-year-old right now. He does all these scientific tests and all this stuff. It's absolutely crazy, longevity, yada yada. So the onto the other part that it was embedded in this question was relationships, and you mentioned that as you get older, it is like you have to be motivated to go get more friends, to interact with more people, and you're in a relationship based business. So how are things, you said that's a goal of yours. What are some things that you want to do to try and combat that, and why do you think it's so tough to make friends and relationships as we get older?
that's a great question. Let's start with that one. I think because of, well, obviously we're just getting over this pandemic, right? So we've been isolated for about what, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
The only thing relationship wise that we have is the face that's on our computer screen right now.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, we can't be close together because I know that you're a distance away from me, which then makes the technology much more convenient.
Yeah.
Now, if you're usually within a mile from each other, yeah, it'd probably be a good idea to go out and nowadays go out and have lunch, coffee, whatever the case may be. I think as far as a business, it's important to maintain relationships. It doesn't mean that you have to be on a weekly visit with each other, right? Just maintaining. I think as a business standpoint, it's important to stay on top of mind with clients and with um, people in general going out there, um, which I think that is an important thing, is that because, out of sight, out of mind. When people don't see you, then they don't remember you, or they forget about what it is that either, for in my case, I help them with, right? So
Yeah.
that's always an important thing, just to stay up. And now, and I don't know how you feel about it, but every now and then when I get a line unexpectedly, so if somebody sends me a message, or nowadays when they DM me, right? It's out of the
Mhm.
blue. It's kind of like, wow, that's so cool. It's great to hear from you, right?
Yeah.
Um, so having those types of things, those little reminders, those little, messages out there is always a nice thing to have. And I think is a social um popular or what environment we need to have that interaction. I think, and then now too is it's challenging when you hear all these negativity out there,
Yeah.
these stories about, and then people get scared. Now, when people are out there more often, then maybe these things won't happen as much. I don't know. That's a different topic for another day. So, yeah, but having a relationship that means something to you, I think that's a big thing. That's what's really important.
This and shout out to my sister. I always have the pleasure of talking a lot about personal development stuff with her, and she was just talking about like reconnecting with people who she hasn't, and connecting with people on like some type of structured basis. Like you don't want to be a robot by any means, like on following up with people and this and that, but also just kind of understanding that life gets in the way, and I have a lot of empathy for people. I think everyone wears the busy badge. Everyone's busy in their own regard, and taking initiative, because the relationship, I mean, it is for my benefit. I want to be around more people. I want to connect with more. So often I hear the excuse, well, it's a two-way street. They'll contact me. And it's taking initiative. And if you do really want to have stronger relationships and you want more relationships, whether that benefits your business, I know my business benefits greatly from having tons and tons of friends, or maybe it's not business, you just like, you want more friends and you feel a little lonely in nature, you just want to push yourself to grow and develop with maybe somebody with a different point of view. I think intentionality can really be a saving grace for building those relationships out.
For sure.
With so for our last segment of the show, I want to pull up your website that I was browsing around and mucking around on earlier. Let's go to Google so everyone kind of sees how to do this. So we have here presentation. Okay. We can just type in your name and you'll be the first one right off the bat.
Oh, look
So
at that.
Dr. Virgilio Castillo, that's good for hey, that's rank 1 on your name for the ranking system for Google. That's great.
Wow, that's a first.
So we have under here, we've talked about some common conditions, some headaches, some things that we're dealing with, aches and pains. Specifically, selfishly, I wanted to ask about a couple of these services and
Sure.
these treatments that you had on here. What is so the Kinesio taping is, or maybe let me backtrack. What's out of these services and stuff that you see on the screen, which ones do you do like most often, or which ones do you enjoy kind of performing as a service for your clients?
Oh, that's a nice one. That's a good question. If you go up a little bit, right? That first line there, chiropractic adjustments of spine extremity and functional corrective exercises or rehab. Now, now as a chiropractor, you would think that, oh, okay, he's gonna crack my bones, right? He's gonna adjust my spine, my neck, my low back. Now, I'll be honest, I might not adjust you on the first or possibly second visit. If anything, I've been really going into the functional corrective rehabilitation probably from the get-go.
Mm.
Um, Now, my view on that is over time is that not everybody needs a chiropractic adjustment right off the bat, right? Um, so sometimes if I can get them to move better, right,
Mhm.
then that's a really good first step. Now, the second time I see them or so, and I still notice that, okay, this is not moving well. Okay, now we're going to go into that chiropractic adjustment aspect of it, plus the corrective rehab. So that's been a pretty big eye opener for me over the years. That seems to be what helps a lot of patients. And actually, fortunately, not unfortunately, fortunately, that's kind of like what's been helping me gain referrals, right? I'm not out there to adjust you on the first visit. If you need it,
Interesting.
then I'll do it, right? If you need it. If your body tells me this is what it needs, this is what's going to happen. Otherwise, I'm going to show you an exercise that you can do on your own. I'm going to guide you through it and help you understand and be aware of the limitations that you have, because then that's what's going to help you when you're leaving my office. So we'll do rehab or exercises first, chiropractic adjustment second. Um, Now let's go down the list a little bit, because you kind of touched on the kinesio taping, and I think there was a question with electrical muscle stim.
Yeah.
Um, let's do the muscle stim, because that seems to be probably the easiest. Now, when somebody comes and sees me and they're very hot, like they're on a 0 to 10 scale, 10 is emergency room pain, 0 is no pain. If they've got a pretty low pain tolerance, let's say, um, you know, they're coming to see me and the pain is at, like, say, a 7, 8 for them, we're going to slap on some electric muscle stim. Now, the electric muscle stim, there's a theory out there called the pain control theory, where when you apply electrical stimulation at different frequencies, it helps to kind of, quote unquote, numb the pain, right? It helps to relax those muscles so that blood flow can happen and pain sensations are decreased using electric muscle stimulation. Now,
Yeah.
it depends on the frequency. Um, High frequencies can help, but typically low to high frequencies are more beneficial. When people use those high frequency um, machines, then it's mostly muscle contraction. You're just going to get muscle contraction. It helps a little bit because it kind of acts as that massage sensation. Sometimes people use it for muscle tone, regain muscle tone, like Bruce Lee, for example. He was a big proponent of that. Um, so that's why we use EMS to kind of get the pain down quickly and as naturally as possible. Now, the kinesio taping, um, that's been around probably since early 2000s. And if anything, that kind of helps to trick or at least work with the nervous system. Now, you'll see a lot of folks tape this stuff on. They'll go on YouTube, they'll see what it does and how to tape it and things like that, which is, hopefully that's what they're doing, finding a reputable provider there that shows or demonstrates the proper way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the kinesio tape is basically kind of stimulating the nervous system to either increase tone or decrease tone, or to help um, with swelling, to reduce swelling.
Okay.
So if it's applied properly, then the tape is helping. If it's not applied properly, then it might not necessarily be the tape. It could be the application, how that person applied it on them. That's why it's not working well.
Interesting. Okay. This, how much does it, so when you would say if you either wanted to get some EMS work done or you wanted some kinesio taping done, is that something that you would have to come in to your office and then you'd get like a one-off, like you would just come and you just do it and go? Or is it, would you recommend someone going, like, what is the, say if I wanted to get one of these two things done, like how would I actually do that?
Absolutely. That's a good question. It really depends on what the case is.
Mhm.
So, for example, if somebody were to, let's make it a simple case, right? If somebody had like low back pain and it was like a 9 out of 10, right? It wasn't life threatening, but it was high up there.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the pain's not going to go away after just one visit.
Yeah.
Now, again, it depends on the patient too, because like some people heal like that. Some people, they go and they still haven't found, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it depends on, uh, how quickly can we get them out of pain. So if a patient like that with low back pain, for example, is really hot, I might need to see them probably 3 times that first week, right?
Mm.
And each time they'll get the electric muscle stim, and they might get like 2 treatments or two taping applications, because the tape is actually quite nice. It lasts about 3 to 5 days, so we might not need to tape like 3 times that week. But once that is improving, then we're going to start taking you off. So I guess the question is, if you're coming in for pain, we might need to use that stim frequently. If you're mostly coming in for like a tightness,
Mm-hmm.
then it could be a one-off. Does that make sense?
Yeah. With I've never had acupuncture done. Is it or
That's an
cupping?
experience. Those two are an experience.
Okay.
Um,
Are they pretty painful, or like you can it's oh it's not that bad, or what's up with these
let's
are two things I want to try.
yeah, let's do the easy one. Cupping is not painful. It's a weird
Okay.
sensation. Both of them are weird sensations. Cupping, um, as you can kind of see there, it's been around for a long time. I think in the Eastern medicine, it's been um, used regularly, and it's a very good form of decongestion. You're decongesting um, a body part or a system, if you will. It's very good as far as like reducing muscle tension.
Hmm.
Um, some people do get an analgesic effect, which is, a pain relieving effect from it. I've used cupping frequently with, first responders, athletes, obviously, um, and acupuncture. That's interesting too. That's been around for generations, um, with a lot of um, success. Acupuncture, if now there's multiple forms of it. So the one that I do is the traditional needling. So if you're having some phobia against needles, this might be a challenge for you,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which then, if you kind of go up to the cold laser, I do use a laser application for acupuncture. So there are no needles there. So that's kind of fun to do.
A
Um,
laser therapy? Wow.
Correct. So I have a laser application where I use laser light to stimulate the acupuncture point. So that it's a little bit longer process because I have to, find the point individually. Whereas in the needling, traditional, then I could put multiple needles in an acupuncture um, channel, if you will. So those are things that I do on actually regularly too.
Okay. Well, you have over at alliancechiropractic.net. This is Dr. C's website. Use it to, you can sign up for kind of learning more. If you want, scheduling appointment is pretty easy and straightforward. If you want to come on here and you want to book an appointment, you want to talk to Dr. C yourself, definitely make sure to do that. He makes general care easy, straightforward. Yeah, and some of these, check out some of these techniques and these ideas. I think it's really interesting and innovative, and it's exciting that we're figuring out all these amazing ways, or have known for a long, long time how incredible a lot of these systems and strategies are to help make the human body move better and get more out of it. Before we go, before we head out of here today, we had on here you got some. I think it's going to be really exciting and very helpful for people. This vlog idea you have coming up. Wanting to what is this? Is this like trainings, and where can people learn more about this? You're getting more into the blog scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to give you credit, give you a little shout out too, is that during our conversations and especially with your, talk to Tanners and stuff like that, it's inspired me to kind of give more information out there to educate, in a sense, guide people to. So I've been trying to get a blog coming out there, just get some general information, and then follow that up with a vlog, right? So people could read a lot and they go, well, what does he mean by that? So sometimes like to visually learn. So I'm going to be putting out a vlog. As a matter of fact, hopefully by the end of today, I'll be able to put that out there on my website too. And just with some follow-up information on a blog that I posted there. So hopefully people will want to join in and stay tuned for that.
Well, Dr. C, it was an absolute honor having you on the show this morning. We'll have your website and a few other ways people can contact you in the show notes in the description below when this video posts. Other than that, thanks again for coming on. You stick around. I'm going to kick you off of here. Stay in the studio. We'll chat a little bit more once the recording's done, but I got to do my outro.
Thanks, Tanner.
Well, everyone, I hope that was an enjoyable interview with Dr. Virgilio Castillo. He's coaching in the tennis world still, being a coach, very hands-on in the personal care space. And just, I really liked the one particular note that really sunk in with me today was when we develop our health and we nurture and grow our relationships, wealth naturally tends to follow. And I'd be curious to what your definition of wealth is. Is it money? Is it quality of life? What is it to you? So if for more tips, tricks, and ideas and exercises to help make you the best entrepreneur you can be, make sure to tune in with our next episode of the Talk to Tanner Morning Show. That's all I have for today. Hope this was of benefit. Stay healthy, stay fit, and go try something new and interesting. Have fun with it. There's lots of ideas and strategies to implement. You guys having a wonderful day. In case you needed to hear it, I love you. Cheers to you, your friends, your family, and the endeavors that you take on. Until next time, peace.